All right, time for the story about when I took 2 tabs of acid and turned into Sasquatch. All right, so you, a lot of people will have these crazy LSD stories where they'll be like, "Oh, I like drank a sip of liquid LSD and was high on acid for a month," or like some crazy story like that. But I just took 2 tabs of acid and that was enough for me to be turned into Sasquatch basically. So I this is this was a few years ago. Um I went to my friend's house and we were gonna do some acid like just for fun, just for the fun of it. Um and I've done acid before, but it was just like for fun, where you just have like a little bit and then you just see what happens. And then you know I've had like hard trips on acid before where I had like scary experiences. I have a lot of scary experiences. I've had some hard experiences, but this time I had 1 tab of acid with him and we were just hanging out and it was fun and it felt really good. And then it was time for us to go home, but acid lasts a really long time, so it felt like I was still just as high. I don't remember how I got home, but I did get home. And he gave me some more. I had some more, and we both did more. I think maybe he didn't, but I did more when I got home, and I just took the other tab. And once I took the other tab, excuse me, once I took the other tab, I was waiting for it to kick in. I put on a documentary, and I put on a I put on a Bigfoot documentary, and it was like this guy. It was like this scientist guy or whatever talking about Bigfoot, and he was like describing Bigfoot. He was like, "Yeah, like it's this big ape with long arms, and it's like." And he was like, it's just a lot more, it's like us, it's just a lot bigger and apier than us, and we're apes. And the way he said ape twice in the same sentence just made me keep getting a thought loop of the word apes. Like he just kept saying apes, ape, like that word just was like ringing in my head. And I was like looking at my hands, and and I was like looking at my hands and they like started turning into like monkey hands. And I was like tripping out so hard because like how monkeys have hands like on their feet too, but Sasquatch like apparently has like a human foot because all the footprints like look like just a big human foot. I was like looking at my feet and I was like, damn, like I got like Bigfoot feet. And it was like I was like feeling my arms, and it was like because apes have like the same anatomy as us. They have arms and feet just like us, and like it was just I felt like I was literally turning into a fucking ape, and I was like tripping so hard it felt like my mind like started going weird too. Like I started losing my like sense of like self, and I started just getting like this weird mental state where I was like turning into like a weird like impulsive like dangerous. It was scary, honestly. Like it was not good. It was this was not a good trip. This is hard. I was like, I mean, I wasn't dangerous like to anybody else. It just felt like I was like turning into like this weird like animal in my head. Like my head was even turning into like an ape. Um, I like kept getting these feelings harder and harder and harder to the point where I kind of just was gone, and I kind of broke through. And if you know anything about acid, you know how hard it is to break through on acid. Like if you break through on acid, then you have to be gone. Like it's a very difficult thing to happen because you can take a bunch of acid, but you can still be walking around with your eyes open and still be able to like walk around town. Just just everything is just kind of rainbows and up the wall. But if for you to like actually go somewhere else on acid, it's like you really did it this time. And I really did it this time because I was gone, and I was like, I went into the forest, I was in the trees, and I was a goddamn gigantic gorilla. Uh, I was like a tall gorilla. I was Sasquatch, but I was like a huge, like big, huge, broad, like heavy Sasquatch, like a gorilla. Like I was like extremely big and buff, and I was like super like just like super like driven, and I was like building stuff with like rocks and stuff. And then I kind of like got out of that first person point of view, and I started watching this gorilla from third person point of view, and the gorilla was like building something with the rocks. And then it started getting crazy, because then it was like I was like thinking about like this gorilla, because it was struggling really hard to survive, and it was like having a really hard time, and it kept getting hurt, and it was like cold and hungry, and it was like lonely and shit. It was like really sad. But then it like started doing shrooms. The gorilla started taking shrooms, and the shrooms like made the gorilla start like thinking clearer, and it like started making the gorilla think about like how it has like okay, I'm trying to remember this. I don't This was so weird. It was like God itself was like watching this gorilla, and God gave this gorilla mushrooms, and the gorilla took the mushrooms, and then the gorilla started thinking about the fact that God gave the gorilla mushrooms, and it started thinking about the fact that God wants it to keep trying. And it was like the gorilla like had this like click in its head, where it was like the gorilla was like, wait a minute, like I'm not alone, like God is watching me, like it wants me to succeed. And the gorilla kept making these tools, and it kept building more and more, and then it started having like a family, and shit was like building up. And it was like I was watching like the beginning of humanity, and it was like this was the most insane shit. And I don't remember really what was going on after this. I remember that part though, where the gorilla started doing shrooms, and it started like building more, and like God was like helping it out or whatever with the shrooms, and like helping it. But anyway, that was the peak. That when it started wearing off, this was so bad. When it started wearing off, and I was like just laying there in bed. I remember laying there in bed and just looking around my room, like everything around me was just like everything was melting. I would look at something, and I'd try to ground myself, and I'd look at something to try to ground myself, and it would just start melting away. And like I could not get a grip. It was so hard, and I could not get a grip on anything that I thought about. Like I started having like a coherent thought, and the coherent thought would just start melting away, and have a I would start thinking about something else, and then like the sound in my head of like my narration and my voice would like get distorted, and it would like start like glitching out and dragging, like the sound would drag out, and it was really obnoxious, and everything was just so loud like in my head, and it was really 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 hard to get through. And then when it finally wore off enough for me to fall asleep, then I had to wake up again because it was like time for me to get up, and that was I went the whole day the next day without any sleep, and I was still like completely shooken up from that throughout the whole day. I was like, what? Like everything around me just seemed so like minuscule. Like everything just seemed so boring. I was like, are you kidding me? Like why would I care about this? Do you have any idea what I went through last night? Like why would I do anything? Like you have no idea. Like I just went through fucking hell and back. Like this is insane. And I still felt like a gorilla too. I remember like walking around, like I would like walk, and I would like swing my arms, and it would felt I just did not feel good. I was completely like my brain was fried. It was hard, but I got through it. And I guess what I get out of that experience is I get to tell it to other people, so you don't have to go through something like that. Like if you're gonna do acid, probably just keep it to one tab. If you take two tabs, something like that might happen. But maybe I'll make another trip report later. I don't know. Who knows? I'll see you later though.